You're listening to the dangerous mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov. No excuses, no BS, no pants.
Welcome back to the Microphone Playboy podcast. So can you guess which mic I'm on right now? It's not the SE Electronics 4400, it's something different. As a matter of fact, this is an industry standard voiceover microphone. There's a really good chance I just gave up the game with that clue. But before I tell you what mic this is, I want to play something for you. Now this is a recording that I made at LAX on my way out of town on my outbound flight to Hawaii. And I'm sitting there at gate like 75 at 6:30 in the morning in the United Terminal, waiting, because you get there 2 hours before your flight. If you want to really just make sure that nothing is a last-minute hassle. I'm not one of those last-minute guys. I have to get to the airport early and then just park myself and have like breakfast and a coffee. And then you don't know what to do with yourself for the next hour and 20 minutes before you board. So at some point, I pulled out my Porter rig just to try this as a test for Hush. Now, what you'll hear first is just the clip of me recording at my gate at LAX, talking really low, trying not to be obvious about it. I didn't pull out my phone because I didn't want to shoot video, because I didn't want to be one of those people. I'm just testing something for my own, for my own amusement. But I want to share this. So what you hear first is just a brief bit of me talking at my gate, followed by that same clip, processed through Hush. All right, I'm at LAX, a very busy airport, sitting at my gate, talking very low. And we're going to see how well Hush can eliminate the airport behind me. All right, I'm at LAX, a very busy airport, sitting at my gate, talking very low. And we're going to see how well Hush can eliminate the airport behind me. And while the results were not amazing or mind-blowing, I was still pretty impressed by how well it did. And I think that had I been speaking at a regular volume, had I been projecting, had the amplitude of my voice been higher, and the differential between the amplitude of my voice and the wash of ambient sound been greater, Hush may have been able to do a better job. But I was thinking that worst case Ontario, if you had to, right? If you had to drop in something that you recorded, even with that little metallic kind of thing on the end of it. It just has that little metallic process sound. But worst case, if you had to drop that in to a VO that had a very prominent music bed, if you could mask it, you could get away with that, I think, in that environment. I never would. I mean, recording at a very busy airport, that's a hostile recording environment. But I was kind of impressed by how well it did. And it yielded something that, though not perfect, may work in certain situations. But it would definitely involve some extensive post. Either way, I just thought it was interesting enough to share. So, have you guessed which mic this is? That's right. It's the Sennheiser 416. So, the Sennheiser 416 is a voice-over standard microphone, right? I think that pretty much anyone, and I say pretty much, I qualify that for a reason. I think pretty much anyone. Oh, you know what? Before I forget, I have some news too. Let me tell you the news first. Oh, let me tell you after this. All right, hold on. I want to talk about the 416, but don't let me forget about the news because it's kind of interesting. It's not lead story news, but it's definitely follow-up news. It's the kind of news you tell at the end of the show. But let's talk about the 416. I have to be honest with you. The 416 is not my favorite mic, and I think a lot of people will agree that the 416, on its own, is kind of an ugly-sounding mic. But that is the reason why it's a VO standard. Because the ugly-soundingness of it has to do with the fact that when you are up on it for voiceover, when you're only a couple of inches or really maybe 5-6 inches off of it, you get a lot of distortion. You get a lot of saturation in your voice. And that may or may not, especially if you're projecting, right? If you're doing spots. Now, if you're doing dialogue and you're just back off it and you're talking, Like if I'm doing an interview. Okay, so if I'm talking normally like I am now, with the mic about 6, 8, 12 inches away, right? Then that's fine. But when you're up on it, doing the promo thing, which is what the 416 is great for, this thing cuts through a music bed like crazy. And that's why it's a VO standard. Especially for advertising on broadcast, especially for television. Now, given that television broadcast audio is heavily compressed at several stages of the broadcast, and there are also some TVs that do a little weird, like kind of smart volume thing, which is really just a form of compression. And some of them do weird EQ curves too. So there's a lot of kind of unexpected and possibly unwanted manipulation of your signal. But the 416, she don't care. So let me just show you. Yeah, I'm just gonna okay, here we go. This is just an instrumental thing, and I'm gonna rip over it. Here we go. This is totally live. So let me try this. Get the new 2024 Buick. It's got everything you need and nothing you don't. You'll get there in style, and you'll get there in one piece with the new 2024 Buick, unless you don't. Get the new 2024 Buick at your Buick dealer, or go to Buick Dealer will sell you a car for some amount of money.com. And let me just add, there's no EQ on this. No EQ whatsoever. The 416 is a VO super tool. It's really kind of one of those things that when you listen to it on its own, you may think, well, that's not really a pretty sounding mic. But it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be forward. It's supposed to be in your face. And it's supposed to cut through a music bed like a wet fart through silk. I don't know. It's supposed to cut through a music bed like a chainsaw through your face. It's supposed to cut through a music bed like a knife through a paper thing that is really weak and can be cut easily. You get what I mean. The 416 is a must-have if you do commercial voiceover. It's a mic you have to have in your collection because at some point you're going to need it or somebody may ask for it. It's just really, again, an industry standard. But, if you only do voice acting, it's terrible for voice acting because there is a pretty small sweet spot. And as I've discussed before, a lot of people find that they are very plosive on a 416. But the answer to that, the way you don't pop a 416, like I am up on the 416, the reason I'm not popping it is because I have the barrel of the 416 pointed right between my eyes. All right, right there. Between your eyebrows and the bridge of your nose, otherwise known as the triangle of sadness. You can look that up. You point it right there, and it sounds great, and you don't have any issues with plosives. You do not need a pop filter with a 416 if you use it properly. So while it is universally accepted that the 416 is a voiceover standard microphone, and that's something that started in LA, and I'll tell you how it started. This is actually a funny story. If you don't know this, if you are a microphone nerd like me, all right, legend has it that the late, great Ernie Anderson, who was the voice of like ABC promos back in the 70s. All right, here, hold on. This is Ernie's voice, okay? Here we go. Let me find this.
All over the insurance city in southern New England, people are talking about TICFM's Hot Morning Show. Gary Craig and Company. John Elliott has all the information. The area's most respected weather service, Traveler's Weather. And Roger Stafford is watching the roads. Gary Craig and Company. It's the morning show on 96 TICFM. Why don't you try something new for breakfast?
So Ernie Anderson was a big VO voice for a lot of national stuff. I mean, he was a big deal dude. And rumor has it that he got tired of being in the booth and not hearing what the producers and everyone on the other side of the glass were saying in between takes because he thought they were talking about him. So he insisted on recording in the control room. So the control room is definitely not a treated environment the same way that a booth is. I mean, a control room is treated, but especially treated for playback, right? You don't really do a lot of recording in there. Now, that's splitting hairs, especially when you talk about voiceover. But there are a lot of extraneous noises in a control room full of people, especially when the gig involves a producer, director, and engineer, possibly some network people, right? So you have a bunch of people in there who all have to be quiet in between takes. And any sort of ambient noise that happens in a control room, like the whirring of motors of the tape deck, because this is back in the era of tape. So, or the hum of some piece of rack equipment. You know, stuff that you can't mitigate in a control room, but during playback you really don't hear, right? A control room is not a completely silent environment like an anechoic chamber. So Ernie Anderson insisted on cutting in the control room, and somebody said, well, we can't cut him on a regular mic. We'll have to use a 416. We'll have to use a film mic because of its directionality, because of its laser focus polar pattern. And so that sound was born. That sound that is such a really ugly, hard-hitting, hard-edged promo sound was born. And Don LaFontaine cut like all the stuff that he ever cut for me back in the day. Because I used to hire him to cut stuff. I used to hire him to cut like trailers for my books and stuff. So he used to cut it all on a 416. He'd go into his agent's office and they had a 416 set up. And I had gone in there once. And because I had to drop off a check for Don. So I had to go into their office, which is right near where Warner Brothers Studios is. It's right, basically kind of across the street. And so I go in there to give them a check, and his agent gives me a little tour of the office, and they point to a corner, and in the corner they have one of those, you know like how like drummers have that like plexiglass, sometimes they'll play behind a plexiglass barrier, sound barrier, so that they can mix the drums easier, right? It looks silly when you see that, but sometimes there's like, so they had that. They had like a corner of a plexiglass barrier and a 416 in the middle of an open office. And that was where people came in to cut. But it worked because back then, and we're talking about a few years ago, of course, back then, it didn't really matter. The ambient noise that was there, because you're putting it up against a bed or, again, like something for, if Ernie Anderson is cutting a promo for Love Boat, you've got the Love Boat music, you've possibly got other elements, sound design elements. It's a busy bed he's cutting through, and that's the sound. And that's the 416 story. That's how it became an industry standard because of something that happened here in LA. And a lot of people around the world do not use a 416 for that. They think it's barbarism to use a 416 for voiceover. But you know what? It works great for what it does. It's an amazing tool. And again, it's an industry standard. But what is amazing to me is that there are still people who do not know that, but yet think they do. There are people out there. All right. So I'm going to read you a comment that was left. And this just cracks me up because this happened over vacation while I was away. And I got this thing. And at first I'm like, is this a joke? So let me read this to you. I'm not going to read you the whole thing. Okay, here we go. Why are you comparing a camera mic with a studio podcast mic? Okay, this is from a video that I did comparing the 416 to the BCM-104. All right? Comparing a camera mic with a studio podcast mic. Podcast mics are designed to speak close up. However, at present time, it's now changed. The big expert here. During podcasting, you may need to read scripts from paper or display. That's changed because apparently, before, you were reading scripts off of carved in rock. So let me continue. So they are now designed for mid-distance. They are now designed for mid-distance because they weren't before. Podcast mics were only designed for up-close work like the BCM-104. BCM, Broadcast Condenser Microphone 104, was designed for podcast use from mid-distance. Because you can't see scripts when you speak close up, as you were speaking to a BCM-104. He put BM-104. Maybe he's talking into a BM-104, a bowel movement 104. Because you can't see them close up when the mic is in your face. If you're using improper technique, you can put the mic to the side of your face, much in the same way that I point the 416, not directly at my mouth hole, but between my eyes. So, the Sennheiser 416 is designed for camera or overhead 1 to 3 meter. You should have tested 3 to 5 meter distance. You know what? I can't read the rest of this. This is so stupid. And I'm trying to say it's an industry standard. Look it up. And this person was very argumentative. This person who obviously, and somebody said to me, you have to excuse this person because they're probably 14 or 15 and they just got their first paid gig and they think they know everything. But why be so dumb about it? You know, when I suggest that you go look it up, why don't you just look it up? I even gave them the Google search term to look it up. Look up Sennheiser 416 VO industry standard. And they're like, no, it's not a voice. And I'm like, Jesus, you're dumb. My God. I'm thinking, you know, sometimes, and this happens on occasion, I would say 98% of the comments that are left behind on the channel are very well thought out. They're questions about stuff, or when people add their experience to something that I've presented on camera or, you know, just in sound, but something I presented. And they add their expertise, their experience, their viewpoint. Then we're having a valuable conversation. But when sometimes some of you try to offer a penny for your thoughts, and I end up having to give back change. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, my first thought is like, dude, you're so dumb. You probably don't even realize there's a B at the end of the word dumb. I'm thinking, you're so dumb that you're probably scared of phantom power. I'm thinking you're so dumb that the only thing you got on your SATs was drool. I'm thinking if you're too dumb to even look it up, I'm guessing that the first time someone told you about a mix bus, you probably went outside and stood at the corner for 3 hours waiting for it to pick you up. You probably actually use a mixed short bus. You're so dumb that you probably think a sound check is what you get paid after the gig. I'm thinking, you're so dumb. You probably think Fleetwood Mac has a drive-through. I'm thinking, you're so dumb. You probably tried to put M&Ms in alphabetical order. And I'm thinking, you know what? Just so you know, just wanted to let you know, okay? You're so dumb that you probably think Tiger Woods is a forest in India. This is the kind of guy who puts 2 quarters in his ears and tells everyone he's listening to 50 Cent. I bet you this guy bought an umbrella to go see Purple Rain. He's so dumb that he thinks that Meow Mix was an iTunes playlist for cats. Seriously. Look, I'm not right all of the time. I have a certain amount of expertise because I've been doing audio for decades, for a long time. And so, I don't think I'm going to get this one wrong. I think I'm on the right side of this argument. Because I don't know what kind of knowledge that this person has about mics. But I'm thinking the difference between whatever this guy is doing with mics and a pizza is that a pizza can feed a family of 4. All right, what do you think? Do you think the 416 is an industry standard? If you don't, you don't have to comment. You don't have to be that guy. So anyway, all right, so, the news. All right, so this is interesting. So I just heard someone actually just posted this as a comment, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting on a lot of levels. Because it means that Neumann, this is Neumann news, okay? This is Neumann news. Alexander DJ900 has now informed me that Neumann is releasing the BCM-104 in black. the BC-104MT, which is for matte, MT for matte black. And I took a look at it, and it looks really cool in black. It looks super cool in black. So I'm thinking that finally, the red-haired stepchild of the Neumann microphone collection is finally getting some love because they dropped this thing. Remember, they dropped this thing in the late 90s. They dropped this thing, and it's never really been like kind of a microphone that they have kind of pushed or promoted or done anything with. You know, it came out, and then it just kind of sat there until I think a bunch of voiceover people. Now, it's intended BCM, broadcast condenser microphone. It's intended for radio because it has that really great low-end cut that makes it perfect, that pops the mids, and yet it's still kind of neutral. It's like a neutral 87-ish with like a really kind of tight low end for broadcast. And I definitely have to pull it up for a future audio-only show. So the BCM-104 finally getting some love from Neumann. They're finally realizing that, oh yeah, you know what? I guess it's a podcast mic. People are buying the BCM-104. And I think people are digging the BCM-104, and Neumann is watching. And so that's cool, because it deserves the love that I think it's starting to get. The BCM-104 deserves the respect it's starting to get. Because again, it's the same circuit as the TLM-103. The difference is the body and the capsule. But the guts, exactly the same. It's the same flat circuit that's in the 103, but it has more of that weird tin can look to it. And it has a very high definition edge-terminated capsule, among other things. But I'm not going to go into detail about the BCM-104 right now. I just thought it was cool that Neumann is releasing it in black, that they're paying attention to what we're doing here in VO world. How cool is that? All right, I've been talking long enough. So what do you think? How do you feel about the 104? How do you feel about the 416? Are you a 416 user? And again, just so you know, there is no EQ on this. It's going through a Hairball Gold, which is a transformer-fed preamp with Jensen transformers, so you're just getting a little bit of the transformer sound, but very, very detailed and clean otherwise. There's no EQ on this, and I'm not going to DS it. So let me know what you think. All right? Until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto NemKoff, fading to black.
Need a new mic every single day. Can't resist the sound pulling me away. Plugging it in tonight, let's do it right. Can't get enough of that recorded light. Mic, all my love can't stay away. Every word you take got me coming back to play. I need more microphones today. More microphones today. Hear that feedback hum, it's my favorite drug. Feel my voice bump through every single plug. I need more microphones today. Maybe I'm microphone addicted.
Lately on microphone, addicted, with feelings that have me conflicted. Well, I really need to get a UA7 to enter the gates of microphone heaven.